Well, welcome to the Etchin channel. We have today Paul Harris, who is a senior counsel in Hong Kong.
Hello, good morning.
And he just published a new book called Raising Freedom's Banner. And in Cantonese, it's called 捍衛自由和平示威簡史. Paul, we just finished actually a radio interview. Now we have the interactive part with a visual. This is going to be a whole lot shorter, very precise, 12 to 15 minutes of non-stop talk. This book was written back a few years ago, the English version.
The English version, 2014.
Right. And why make a Chinese book out of it?
I'd always wanted to have a Chinese translation. I wanted it to be read in Hong Kong and in mainland China because it explains why we have peaceful demonstrations, and it looks around the world at what they've achieved in different countries over time, including very famous successful movements like the civil rights movement in the United States. And it tries to look at what makes a demonstrating movement successful, and it tries to look at what can be achieved, what can't be achieved, where the limits lie. And it's got a lot of historical facts which people often don't know, and I think it's good that people should understand a bit more about peaceful demonstrations. And so I'm really pleased that it's now been published in Chinese.
Okay. Now, you know, like a lot of people are worried about whether the rule of law is still intact in Hong Kong because of the NSL. That was enacted almost 6 months ago, and a lot of people are losing hope in Hong Kong. It's almost Christmas time, and it's always good to think about hope. What does hope mean to you in this challenging time?
Well, I have hope. I think the NSL has done great damage. There are parts of it that are not consistent with the rule of law.
Right.
But the rule of law in Hong Kong has not been broken. There are still many parts of the Hong Kong system which are working as they're meant to work. Of course, if everyone gives up hope, if everyone becomes defeatist, then Hong Kong will be defeated. But we should not give up hope. There is still much to be battled for. When I say battled, I mean peacefully. I don't believe in violent protests. I believe in peaceful action through the law and through peaceful demonstrations. I think that we now have vaccines in the world against COVID-19. We can look forward to 2021 with far fewer problems from COVID-19,
right.
And I think that will make other things easier to cope with as well.
Yeah, you know, when we age, our hands are getting more shaky. So I was just watching the camera kind of wobble a bit, right?
I don't think my hand shakes at all.
Yeah, now it stopped. It's okay. It's okay. We just don't touch the table. Of course, a lot of people are worried about Jimmy Lai. And you know Jimmy for many years, like I do.
Yes.
And you met him recently.
I'm very worried about him. I don't think he's done anything wrong, and I think it's absolutely scandalous that a man of 73 should be in prison on remand in his circumstances. I went to see him in prison. He's in very good spirits, he's very brave, but it really saddened me and shocked me to see him there. And I desperately hope that he will be released on bail very soon.
Well, I think the next court date is set on December 23rd, one day before Christmas Eve. I hope it will bring some good news.
Let's hope so.
Right. Now, of course, this is a shorter version compared to like a full-scale radio interview. Again, more about your book. Is it good for people who have no legal background to buy either a copy of your English one or the Chinese one, or is it easy for laymen to understand?
This is a lay person's book. It's not a lawyer's book. It's specifically written to be readable and to be understandable, and it is not in technical language at all. I think whether you prefer the English or the Chinese depends which language you're happier reading books in. I'm pleased with the translation. I read a bit of Chinese, but the book has been looked at by people who are native Chinese speakers and Chinese readers, and I'm told the translation is very good. So I'm pleased by both versions.
One thing I have not covered during our radio interview is you travel quite a lot. In fact, you have been to almost all countries, or all countries in the world.
I have actually been to every country in the world. It was my ambition for years to do it. I started traveling in my 20s, and I was in my 60s when I got to the last country, which was Angola in Africa.
Which country impresses you most?
Well, it depends what for.
Yeah.
If you're talking about physical beauty, it has to be the long line of the snow-capped Himalayas in Nepal. But I mean, many countries have different things that are attractive about them, and it's quite difficult to pick one out. I rather like remote tropical islands. I very much enjoyed visiting the Marshall Islands in the Western Pacific, which have their own culture, their own language, even though they're just a group of islands hundreds of miles from anywhere. Then at one time in my life, I worked for British Overseas Aid, and I worked in Yemen, and that was a fascinating, extraordinary experience. I'm very sad about what's happened to Yemen since, with the civil war. But really, most countries have something interesting. And there are very few where you could actually say that's a boring country. It's not worth going to.
Give us some words of hope for Hong Kong, because it seems like most people don't think there's hope anymore. So it's so close to Christmas now. Well,
I've thought about this a lot, because I've had this conversation with various people, and when I've said I had hope, other people have said to me, "Mo hei mo." I have hope because of Hong Kong people's spirit, as shown in moments of crises in the past. I think back to 2003 and the big 500,000 strong demonstration against Article 23 legislation. At the moment, everything's very subdued because of COVID-19, the rule that not more than 4 people must meet together. People are afraid of being infected with a very nasty disease. Like I said earlier, that's about to change, and I think Hong Kong's spirit will revive, and I think there are still a lot of people in Hong Kong who are determined to do things in a fair and a just way in accordance with the rule of law, and so I have not given up hope, and I think I would urge people not to give up hope. I think there is a prospect that in 2021 things will get a bit better, that Hong Kong will revive, not simply economically, but also socially and politically.
Let's hope so. Thank you so much, Paul.
Thank you.